All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this review session for the assignment 3. And this week, I will make a little change to the structure of the session. Instead of review all the concepts in front, I will just review the important concepts and the formulas while we go over the question, because I think that way will be more beneficial to your understanding to the questions. Okay, so let's jump into the questions. The first one is about stock valuation. Suppose you know that a company's stock currently sells for $74 per share, and the required return on the stock is 10.6%. You also know that the total return on the stock is evenly divided between a capital gains yield and a dividend yield. If it's the company's policy to always maintain a constant growth rate in its dividends, what is the current dividend per share? All right, so the first step for this question is to identify the yield. We are given the required return is 10.6%, and the dividend yield is equal to capital gains yield. Therefore, they are both equal to half of the required return, which is equal to 0.053. The second step is to compute next year's dividend. We use this formula. D1 is equal to the dividend yield times the price per share. So next year's dividend should be 3.92. Finally, we can solve for this year's dividend using the dividend growth formula. So D1 should be equal to D0 times 1 plus the growth rate. So plugging the numbers we have here and here, we can get the dividend this year is 3.72. All right. Moving to the second question. This company has an issue of preferred stock outstanding that pays a $3.4 dividend every year in perpetuity. If this issue currently sells for $91 per share, we are asked about what is the required return. So before solving the question, I want to quickly review the preferred stock valuation formula. As a reminder, preferred stock is typically valued like a perpetuity because it pays a fixed dividend forever. This is similar to the constant growth dividend discount model. Here we have the price equal to dividend amount divided by the required return minus the dividend growth rate. However, for the preferred stock, the dividend growth rate is 0% because most preferred stock pays a fixed dividend, so G equals to 0 for preferred stock. So we can rearrange this formula and get the required return to be the annual dividend divided by the current price. Okay, to solve this question, we first want to identify to use this preferred stock valuation formula we just discussed. And then we can just plug in the values given in the question. We know the dividend amount is 3.4 and the price, the current price is $91 per share, and we can compute the required return, which is 3.4 divided by 91, and the final answer should be 3.74%. All right. The next problem is about stock valuation and PE ratio. The Perfect Rose Company has earnings of $3.18 per share. The benchmark PE for the company is 18. The questions are, what stock price would you consider appropriate, and what is the benchmark PE, or 21. All right, so we want to first review the PE valuation formula. The price to earning ratio reflects how much investors are willing to pay per dollar of earnings. By multiplying the earnings per share with a benchmark PE ratio, we estimate the fair market price of the stock. So the formula is here. The fair market price of the stock equals to benchmark PE times EPS. The implication here is that higher PE ratio implies greater market confidence or growth expectations, reflecting optimism about the company's future prospects. So to solve this question, we want to first identify to use the PE evaluation formula we just discussed. And next, we can calculate with PE ratio equal to 18. So the stock price should be the PE ratio times the EPS given in the question. So the stock price with PE equal to 18 should be 57.24. And the similar thing to the PE ratio equals to 21. And we can get the final answer of 66.78. All right. So the next question is about non-constant growth. So we have a young startup company. We are given that no dividends will be paid over the next 9 years as the company reinvests in growth. However, in year 10, it will pay a dividend of $17 per share, and dividends will grow at a constant rate of 3.9% thereafter. Also, the required return on this stock is 12.5%. The question is, what is the current share price? So how should we think about this problem? We know that the stock pays no dividends for 9 years, so it has zero value from dividends during that time. Starting from year 10, dividends begin to pay to the investor and it grows at a constant rate. Therefore, this allows us to apply the constant dividend growth model. We first find the value at year 9, which is 1 period before dividend starts. Then we can discount that price back to the present. As a reminder, the constant dividend growth formula is here. We have the price today equals to the dividend next year divided by required rate of return minus the dividend growth rate. All right. First of all, we use the constant dividend growth model to find the price at year 9. So we plug in the value for the dividend in year 10 and divided it by the required return minus the dividend growth rate. So the price at year 9 should be about $197. Next, we want to discount this price back to the present. That is, we want to find P0. So we just use this stock price at year 9 divided by 1 plus the required return to the power of 9, because we have 9 periods of discount. Therefore, P0 should be 68.48. That's our current share price. Okay, if there's no questions, we move on to problem 5. It is about supernormal growth. This company is experiencing rapid growth. We are given that there are 3 stages of dividend growth. In the first stage, the dividends are grow at 25% per year for the next 3 years. Next, it grow at 15% in year 4. And finally, the dividends grow at 6% per year indefinitely after year 4. Also, the required return is 10%, and the current stock price is $79. So the question is, what is the projected dividend for the coming year? So we should think about this question as a multi-stage dividend discount model. We should calculate the future dividends during each growth phase and add them together at the end. At the transition to constant growth, which is after year 4, we can apply the constant growth dividend discount model. And don't forget that we need to discount all the future values back to today at the required rate of return. So here is the formula we want to use. So the first step, we want to find the dividends in year 1 to 4, because that is the first stage we just discussed. So we denote D0 to be the dividend today. Then D1 should be D0 times 1 plus the dividend growth rate. And D2 should be D0 times 1 plus the dividend growth rate to the power of 2, which implies that D3 is the same thing, D0 times 1 plus dividend growth rate to the power of 3, and D4 should be D3 times 1 plus the dividend growth rate in year 4. Because here we have 15% growth rate in year 4. All right, the next step is to find the price of the stock in year 4. Note that the stock begins constant growth in year 4, so we can find P4 as the dividend in year 5, divided by the required return minus the growth rate. So we use this formula. We want to find the price in year 4, so we need the information about dividend in year 5 and required return minus the growth rate. So we just calculated the dividend in year 4 as this one, and we multiply it to 1 plus the dividend growth rate in year 4 and divided by R minus G. So the final answer should be 59.52 times D0. Okay. And step 3 is to calculate the present value of all cash flows. P0 should be D1 divided by 1 plus the 10% required return. And D2 and plus D2 divided by 1 plus required return to the power of 2, and so on and so forth. So we rearrange this formula to factor out D0 as this one here. So we can find that P0 should be D0 times 46.08, which is the final result of this formula in the parentheses. So the final result for D0 should be 1.7. And finally, the projected dividend for next year, which is D1, should be D0 times 1 plus, we have 25% here, which is the dividend growth rate for the first 3 years. So D1 should be 2.14. Okay, the last question is about negative growth. So we have a mature manufacturing firm here. It just paid a dividend of $9.8, but management expects to reduce the payout by 4% per year indefinitely. If you require a return of 9.5% on this stock, what will you pay for a share today? So we want to calculate the share price today. So before solving the question, I want to review the constant dividend growth model with declining dividends. We know that the constant dividend growth model can handle declining dividends by just setting G less than 0. We could use the same Gordon growth formula, which is the same as we used for the previous questions. Just recognize that subtracting a negative number is the same as adding a positive one, or the absolute value of this number. Therefore, the intuition here is that lower dividends result in an increasing denominator, which will finally result in a lower stock price. Okay, so here is the solution for the question. So we already identified that we need to use the same constant growth dividend discount model, just with a negative number for the growth rate. And next, we can just plug in the values given in the question. We have D0 to be 9.8, and G is minus 4%. And the required rate of return is 9.5% given the question. So we have the stock price today to be about $69.69. Okay, so that finished the review of the assignment 3 questions. So if you have further questions, please feel free to email me or attend our office hours. All right, thank you. Have a great day.